Well, I'm excited. I don't know about you. Tonight has gotten me fired up, like Habib, because I'm excited to see what's happening in Champaign County. Obviously, we owe a lot of debt of gratitude to Congressman Johnson for his years of service. I will tell you, as someone who served with him for the past 4 years, there aren't many people in Washington, D.C. Who are as eager to get on the plane to come back to their district as Tim Johnson, who have spent more time making sure they connected to their constituents and stayed real to the people who elected them. And so let me first say thank you for all of your years of service in supporting him, and we owe him a debt of gratitude for his 22 years, 44 years actually, of all of his public service to our community. But that means that there is going to be change, and I'm looking forward to working with whomever the county chairman slate. You have a young and dynamic legislative team. Chapin Rose was one of my buddies in the state legislature in the House. He taught me everything I know, and now he's gone on to the state Senate. And obviously you have a dynamic chairman as well. And whoever you slate, it's going to be very important that we work hard to make sure they get elected. Nancy Pelosi has publicly stated that her path to 25 seats to get back the gavel and the speakership starts here in Illinois. And she believes she can win 5 seats here in the state of Illinois, and one of them is this 13th district. And so while the good or bad news is Illinois is not a battleground state for president, that means that it's up to us to determine the turnout of Republican voters. And the turnout of Republican voters and independent voters voting Republican will be directly tied to our message, our work ethic, and what we do to get people excited and motivated for our state rep and state Senate candidates, for our county board and local elections, and yes, for our United States congressional seat. And so this election cycle is extremely important for us to retain the House majority. We are doing exciting things out in Washington, D.C. with your new majority in the House, that many of you worked very hard to help us win 5 new seats in Illinois, in President Obama's home state. To Governor Daniels' point, we actually passed a budget under Paul Ryan's leadership that bends the cost curve, that does entitlement reforms, that puts us on a path towards prosperity. And we did it with more votes than that's ever passed a budget in the House in the last decade. So this Republican majority is different from Republican majorities in the past that may have overspent and may not have been willing to take on those tough challenges. But we need a like majority in the United States Senate. And so we got to work for that in those Senate seats around the country, in neighboring states like Indiana and others, to keep and hold the seats we've got and pick up the majority we've got. The opportunity for us to reach out to independent and Democrat voters is better now than ever as Illinoisans. Because we don't have to talk about what may be if Democrats control everything in Washington. We don't have to wonder what Barack Obama's liberal agenda looks like, because we're living it right here in Illinois. Yes, the president's talk about a division, about the rich needing to pay more. We've heard that for a decade. If only they had a little bit more of your money, they could make the ends meet. If only they had a little bit more from the rich, we could pay all of our providers. And yet after a 67% increase, the largest in our country's history, where is all that new revenue going? Only to higher spending in federal government, not to structurally change our problems. And so that's true with the federal government. This year, or this week, the Senate, you probably saw, voted on the Buffett Amendment, the Buffett Rule. $4 billion of potential revenue. That's what the president is stringing his hopes on, $4 billion in revenue, and for those of you paying attention, that's 11 hours of federal spending. Fairy dust on the federal budget. Hardly leadership, hardly a plan to turn around our country's deficit and our problems. So the facts are on our side, and again, to Governor Daniels' point, the least among us, the poorest among us, stand the greatest to benefit from our opportunity society we want to create. The Democrats' perpetual dependency policies have not worked for the least among us, and it's up to us to carry that message, get people excited, motivated, engaged in this election cycle like never before. I'm looking forward to helping you do that, And thank you all for being here tonight to support your local party. God bless.